Today's podcast is sponsored by Atomic Golf. If you need custom ball markers, divot repair tools, and more that are made from high-quality materials like solid copper and brass and look really good, then you should check out our friends at Atomic Golf. If courses like Old Barnwell, Landman, Sweetens Cove, and more are already working with them, then you should too. Visit atomicgolf.club and follow them on Instagram at Atomic Golf.
What's another one that has become a source of debate as far as behavior on the golf course that you know of, as far as a golf etiquette debate?
Apparel. I know
Apparel. So what's the big one? What's the big
Yeah.
one that some people are against? And I actually saw some funny tweets about this over the weekend.
Well, I know a lot of people don't like the joggers on the golf course, and hoodies. I know are
And hoodies.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw quite a few tweets that said something to the effect, you see some drunk guy rolling down a hill, showing his bare butt or whatever, but the people's tweets were like, hoodies open the door to this kind of behavior. Hello, welcome to the Caddie Tales podcast. I'm Mark the Caddy. I'm joined by my sidekick and colleague, fellow caddy Nick, and we are excited to talk to you once again about our experiences as caddies on a top 100 golf course in the state of Wisconsin. Such a wonderful opportunity that we have, always remembering that golf mirrors life, and there's so many lessons to be learned on the course that we bring into our lives, and so many lessons in our lives that we can take out onto the course. So, how you doing today, Nick?
Doing good, buddy. Little tired from that Super Bowl last night. I wasn't planning on 5 whole quarters of football, but
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, so those who are listening, we record these on Mondays generally, release them on Fridays. So this is the day after the Super Bowl. Should be a national holiday. If elected president, I can promise that will be at the top of my platform. But
You've got
yeah,
my
very, very exciting game. I'm not excited about either team, and I was finding myself rooting very much for the 49ers, though, during the game. So congrats to Kansas City, though, but we move on, and now we are post-football season. We turn our attention more dutifully to this beautiful game of golf. It's getting nearer and nearer till the start of our season, but something weird happened this weekend, Nick.
Yeah.
We had the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It went to overtime.
Correct.
It is this close, amazing game, and yet I think there was a sporting event that kind of was more intriguing.
Yeah.
And that was the Waste Management Phoenix Open out there in Arizona. It was quite a wild event. What did you think?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Nick Taylor with quite the comeback. I didn't think he was gonna do it there. He's like down, I think like 2 strokes with 3 to play or something like that, and what a run!
Yeah, yeah. He great win for him. Kind of sad though that I think at least in social media circles, the golf, which was quite good, was overshadowed by the shenanigans by a number of fans. It was quite wild, and certainly the golf community has some strong opinions on what took place. Were you able to see some of the videos that were posted out there this weekend about the tournament?
I saw on your Twitter. I saw the video you posted, and it's not surprising. I actually went on Sunday last year to that tournament, and yeah, there were a lot of people that were feeling no pain. Let's say.
Nick has caddied out there in the Phoenix area during the winter before, and so he's gotten to go and see the tournament, and so he was somewhat prepared for all of the alcohol, I think we can say, abuse that took place. But from what I can tell, and I was definitely more in tune to it this year than in other years, but from what I can tell, just based on what other people are saying, is that it kind of went to a whole different level this year. Like people trying to one-up one another with craziness, maybe searching for some likes on social media. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was definitely some behavior that was so wild that it even caused the tournament to shut down alcohol sales.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think what kind of fed the fire was the fact that they weren't able to start playing, and they were playing so late into the evening, and people were probably just getting drunker and drunker as the day goes on.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help. And I also thought, and I watched more coverage on Saturday than I did any other time. I felt like the announcers just were so focused on hole 16 and kind of the celebration that takes place there that it just took on a life of itself. And combined with the delays and the just sitting there drinking to keep yourself occupied, it got kind of wild.
Yeah.
But I thought it was perfect timing for us because we're continuing our look at things that caddies care about, maybe don't care about as much as people think that we would. And we started a couple weeks ago by saying, we don't care about your ability as much as maybe you think we do. There's a lot of other things we care about more so that you can have a good day. Last week we talked about the bags that people carry and that we carry and how they really can impact a day, and we care about them quite a bit. Now, today I want to talk about something that I think maybe isn't as easy to define. Whether we care about it or not. And I think this is the topic where we'd see maybe a wider variance, at least amongst even the guys we work with. And that is the issue of golf course etiquette and decorum. How much do you care about it? What do you think, Nick?
Well, me personally, when I play, I'm not super uptight about it. Usually I've got music playing, and everyone's respectful about it while you're hitting a shot, but there's going to be some smack talk and that kind of stuff. But while I'm caddying, it's pretty important, obviously. There's a lot of rules that we have to follow. What am I trying to say here? Yeah, there's just a lot of rules that you have to follow while caddying.
And that goes to reading your players too, and how
exactly.
important it is to them. Yeah,
no doubt.
You touched on one that if I threw up a poll on X today, it would start a. It's been debated many a times. I'm not going to do it, but whether music should be allowed on the course, and some people feel very, very strongly about whether it should or should not, and probably the people who feel that it should not feel more strongly than the others. But it's something that's an important issue for people. I think
it seems like it's kind of generational too. I feel like a lot of the younger people are used to it. They'll bring their Bluetooth speakers out, and there are certainly like older people that do enjoy music while they're playing, but like the people that generally have a problem with it, I think, are a lot of the older people that probably didn't grow up with all the music and everything,
Yeah. Well, and that actually leads to the point that I was thinking about a lot this weekend. What happened at the Waste Management tournament, issues of golf etiquette, I'm not so sure that they're just a golf issue, but not part of a broader discussion just about the formality in America. And the reality, I think this can't be argued with, we're becoming a more informal culture.
Yeah.
And so certainly along generations, there's going to be some differences in what we have been brought up with or what we're comfortable with. And I'll give you a perfect example. Christmas, go over to my in-laws for dinner and opening presents with all the grandkids. And my in-laws are great people. And they, are down to earth and all of that. But it was interesting. This year I went in and I was wearing this hat in particular. And my mother-in-law came from behind. I was sitting on the couch and she took it off my head.
Yeah.
And went and put it on the over by the stairs. And it wasn't because it was a Michigan hat and she's some Wisconsin fan or whatever. It was just, we're indoors.
Yeah.
And wear hats. Now it's interesting. Me and my wife have been married almost 25 years, and I think that's the first time we've done it. I've always been respectful and taken it off in the table.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in a house with parents who were not like great role models, or they had plenty of issues or things they let loose on. But I remember if I came to a table, with a hat on. That was something that would have set my dad off. He would like hit me or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is stuck with me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I grew up in a age and time where largely you could wear hats in a building. Now, for people who are older, maybe that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Or think about, have you ever heard about what people used to do when they flew on an airplane, Nick?
No. Like
yeah. Now, if you go and catch an early morning flight, you're likely to see somebody sitting there with pajama pants ready to get on the plane. But I'm told that people used to dress up for it. It was a big event.
More formal, huh?
Yeah, it says something. And also now, if you see churches, for instance, and in their advertisements, very often they advertise, they don't care what you're wearing or whatever. And that's beyond the scope of our podcast here, whether it matters or not, but from a theological perspective. But there are people for whom it means a great deal to them personally. Yep. And you could go to a church, for instance, and see some people wearing suits and ties because they're saying this day is set apart, this activity is set apart, and they're deeply impacted by maybe some people who, in their mind, what they're wearing shows they don't take it as seriously. Now, we got to be careful on that kind of thing to read people's intentions in their heart, but it all pieces together to say, these things are kind of serious issues, how we look at them. Maybe we shouldn't be as flippant with them. And as we become more informal, you're seeing some of that stuff creeping out onto the golf course. So you touched on one that fires people up, music. What's another one that has become a source of debate as far as behavior on the golf course that you know of, as far as a golf etiquette debate?
Apparel. I know
apparel. So what's the big one? What's the big one that some people are against? And I actually saw some funny tweets about this over the weekend.
Well, I know a lot of people don't like the joggers on the golf course, and hoodies. I know are
and hoodies.
Yeah.
I saw quite a few tweets that says something to the effect, you see some drunk guy rolling down a hill, showing his bare butt or whatever, but the people's tweets were like, hoodies open the door to this kind of behavior.
It's the floodgates. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
It was a slippery slope, but it's really interesting to me because I think it is one of those topics where I don't think you can make a absolute truth statement on it and say this is absolutely right or this is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And where you have to acknowledge some of it's maybe generational, some of it's just styles change and things are made available, like hoodies or joggers that weren't in the past. But I do think what we can do is say, how are we going to approach the events in our life? Are we going to say they're set apart and they're special? And for a lot of people, and we certainly see this, coming and spending thousands of dollars on a golf trip, planning for a year, being with some of the people who are most important to them in their life, that event is set apart. And that event is special. So how should we as caddies approach it for them?
Yeah. I do like some the formalities about dressing properly at the golf course, and certainly it's treated more seriously at private courses and whatnot, because it is like a special event. Doesn't always happen. So
and also you're saying golf is maybe it's okay to be different. Maybe it's okay to say this is something where we want it to be at a different level of respect. We want it to be at a different level of formality because it speaks to the uniqueness and the special nature of the game. I don't think we want to just say out of hand that kind of attitude is elitist or wrong.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, I think we got to be careful to say, man, if somebody's invited to golf and they have never been taught the rules of the game or whatever, we don't want to jump all over them or whatever. There's maybe a way to gently teach.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking about maybe some of the etiquette or formality of golf that I appreciate, something that I think is set apart and that I would be really sad if it went away. Can you think of anything that you really appreciate about the etiquette of golf or the formality, Nick?
I do enjoy the post round like handshake and everything where you kind of like commiserate with all with everyone and just kind of like, yeah, it was an awesome day, wasn't it? And I enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. We're often standing on the fairway for the 18th hole, and the group in front of us is finishing up. And as we're standing there, it's kind of, you haven't interacted with these people. You don't know what kind of round they've had.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if the caddies and the players have got whatever. But you see them, and they take their hats off,
Mm-hmm.
and they shake hands, and it just feels like, okay, whatever happened, it's good. And then I keep that in mind as then we get finished on the 18th green, that no matter what happened, if somebody played well, if somebody didn't, maybe if they want some shots back or whatever, we still just spent some special time together.
Yeah, I agree.
And we leave with respect. We leave with memories. It's good. I even like just how we as caddies are trained to take our hat off when we greet players at the bag drop.
Yep.
Make sure we give them a good handshake,
Mm-hmm.
look them in the eye.
Yeah.
And
it's showing respect, just got to show respect for people.
That's one of the things that I actually look forward to teaching my son how to caddy when he's old enough. In just a year or two, he's going to be able to go and start learning how to caddy at the local club.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
I want him to get involved with golf, and I want him to learn how to read greens and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. But probably the thing that I'm most excited about is that he begins to interact at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
And golf fosters that.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to learn how to talk to adults, and he's going to have to learn how to look someone in the eye and shake hands with a firm handshake and be, quiet and respectful when necessary.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to need to learn what is appropriate and what isn't. I think those are great life skills for somebody who's 12, 13 years old. Have you noticed amongst maybe some of our younger caddies, that's one of the bigger struggles they have?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of thinking in the back of my head too that he's going to learn how to his ego is going to be put in check pretty quick, That's like one of the things that I learned pretty quickly is that not everyone's going to like you,
Yeah, right. No, that's absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
And, related to ego too, I think you have to have the humility that says the game is bigger than me,
mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna defer to the needs of my players and respect them. I'm gonna read the room. I know that there are some young caddies who struggle with that as far as being able to carry a conversation.
Yep.
And then also, I laugh sometimes, a lot of the people who come to the golf course and play are loose with their language, or they're having some cocktails and are freer or whatever. And you certainly have those who want to hear the crazy caddy stories. That's probably the majority of the time.
Yeah.
But you do get those groups that are pretty buttoned up, very, very serious, very proper. Yeah. And I'll still hear caddies, slip up and drop the F-bomb or tell an inappropriate joke or use the one-liners on the green that they're well known for. And I always think, man, let's make sure that we're showing respect to these players and to the game, and not get too informal, not lose the specialness. Is that a word? The uniqueness, the set apart nature of the game. So I love that. But on the flip side, I think we have to be careful to be. So the conversation of golf etiquette also, I think, has to have a context as far as how important it is or what can be considered right and wrong. When you're talking about the tour and professional golfers, there's maybe a Bible of rules that can't necessarily apply to 4 people hacking it around a golf course that's pretty big for them, and 2 caddies each carrying double bags. The example that I was thinking of is and you really notice this when the groups don't know each other, say there's like 2 and 2 and they don't know each other, staying behind, till the person in the back hits.
Yep.
You have to give these people free, like, if we did that, how long would it be our rounds if people didn't go ahead to their ball?
Yeah, it'd be miserable.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have 7-8 hour rounds some days. And so you got to give people the freedom to say, hey, we got to play ready golf. You got to go, stay out of the path of the ball, but you got to go to your ball. Continuous putting, things like that. Excuse me. There's got to be some freedom there when you're talking about our context.
Yeah, and because, obviously you're not the only group out there. You got to show respect for the groups behind you and keep up pace of play. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and so like, and sometimes you got to teach these players like 10 times during a round. We'll have said ready golf. Ready golf.
Yep.
Whoever's ready, and you'll still have that person constantly who's like, you're away. It's like, just hit the ball. Okay, you're ready. They're not. And I know that sounds flippant, and I bet you there's going to be a listener who 100% disagrees with me on that and is going to maybe message me and say, you can't be so hung up about pace of play. Well, I get it, but we also have the real world where they got to pack all these people into a golf course to make money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they tell us to keep it moving. And so there's got to be some freedom there in the etiquette. The thing where I would say I had maybe a turning point this weekend, because it was so over the top to me, the behavior, that's where I got to thinking, maybe it's okay to be more formal. Maybe it's okay to be more into this. I would say that my nature or my first instinct was to not care about a lot of this stuff or to be flippant about it. And that stems from annoyance, because I think sometimes golf etiquette can lead to some pretentiousness and some out of touch behavior from some players. For example, have you ever seen somebody shank a drive, Nick, and then try to blame it on a noise that they heard from the distance?
Yeah, I've heard that quite a few times. Yeah. Me and the caddy usually talk under our breaths and be like, "Oh, this guy probably couldn't play on tour, but luckily he's not. Doesn't have to do that,
Yeah, like I'll hear somebody like cough, in the foursome, and a player, just hits their ball astray, and they turn and glare at the player who coughed, and I'm like, come on, is that really why you missed that?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's happened every now and then that's the reason, but I also watch NBA games where guys are shooting free throws with thunder sticks in the background and thousands of people screaming.
Right. Doesn't bother them.
And so like what happens for these tour players and the concentration maybe that they need and the precision with which they play, again, may not translate to the game for most of us. So should we go out of our way to yell or slap thunder sticks when somebody's hitting? No.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But do I think that it gets a little out of hand sometimes as far as people using it to give themselves a free mulligan or whatever? Yeah. So, there are some pretensions to all of this that I think we want to avoid. Nick, do you have any other insights on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if everyone could play the game and not let anything bother them and all that jazz. But yeah, you definitely have to be respectful and at the very least be quiet while someone's hitting. I think that's just the major one. And I wish at the Waste Management, I think people would be more respectful of that, because it doesn't seem like they care at all about trying to be quiet while people are hitting. So
yeah, no, that was something that we saw Billy Horschel get into it with a fan yesterday, because they're yelling, and that's a big deal for them.
Yeah, but it's still a golf tournament. They're still playing for a lot of money. Like that tournament is a lot of money for them.
And even if I'm not convinced that matters for most players, like, does it really impact the game? That gets back to the discussion of, it's okay though for golf to be set apart. It's okay for golf to say, we're not going to do that. And we're going to be different. We're not the same atmosphere as a NFL game or whatever. And maybe that's a matter of just simple opinion. And there's people who can vary on their opinions on that. But I think there is something to be said about golf just being one of respect and gentleman or gentlewoman, just being out there doing their thing in a way that honors this beautiful game that we have. So yeah, it's just really, really, it was fascinating to me to see all the behavior. But again, I just don't think it had much to do with golf as much as it had to do with we're living in this very, very informal society. And maybe we need to reevaluate a lot of settings in our life and how we approach them. How do we show respect for them? How do we honor them? How do we honor and respect others and, still exercise our freedom? But, because, I'll use this example again. I might think it's fine to wear a hat indoors, okay?
Yeah.
But if my mother-in-law doesn't want me to, and I'm at her house, then I honor her and say, I'm not going to wear a hat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live. And I think sometimes in the name of freedom, people forget that kind of mutual respect that we're supposed to have for each other.
Yeah.
And I saw some of that behavior going on at the waste management tournament where maybe people just weren't respecting those around them and were looking to make a name for themselves. And I think that can be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it's kind of where we're at in society right now, but
Yeah. So, okay, Nick, before we finish today, I do want to kind of get to our segment called Good Caddy, Bad Caddy. And it's somewhat related here. They had to cut off alcohol sales at the waste management.
Yeah, I heard that.
And that they said 30 people blacked out. We saw other pictures of people just stumbling, barely able to stand up.
Yep.
Every now and then, you get those groups that are ordering the double transfusions.
Yeah.
Before the round and at each of the beverage carts.
Yeah.
And they get pretty loaded.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen too often where it just crosses maybe a line, whatever line it is that you think is the line.
Yeah, not too often.
Let's throw out the scenario. Someone's just gone too far, and there's still holes to be played.
Yeah.
How does a good caddy handle that? I think it's a really tough one.
Yeah, it is a very tough one, and you can't really cut someone off as a caddy. Maybe you could have a conversation with the cart girl and be like, "Hey, maybe we could, not give them doubles this time, or 'cause I'm sure they have a way of doing things. They'll, say they'll give you a double or something like that. Maybe make it a single. But it's very rare, but I've seen the golf course staff get involved at our course before, where they'll cut a group off. But that's very rare. That was once I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah.
I just gotta have communication with everyone at the golf course. We have marshals that are monitoring things, and like I said, the cart girls usually do a pretty good job of not over serving our guests. So and I want it's tough because you're working for a tip from people, so you're not in the business of having being at odds with them. But of course you want people to be safe and also be able to finish. So I was thinking, okay, you jump ahead of them at a hole and go and talk to the cart girl. Yeah.
I have found that usually in every group there's one person who's the leader of some sort.
Yeah.
And I have on occasion, especially this has been when it's a pace of play issue, I've gone and talked to them rather than say something to the whole group because you just kind of pick out the person you think can handle information a little bit better or might act on it a little bit more proactively.
Yeah.
And you go and kind of whisper to them that we've got to cut so-and-so off, or what do you think? And
it probably sounds better coming from them too than coming from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Now a negative way, and we've learned this with some people the hard way, a negative way to handle it would be to join in with them, though I know
Yeah. That would not be good.
I know at some golf courses, I think maybe the caddies are allowed to do a little bit more of that.
I've heard a few stories, especially over in Europe, Ireland,
yeah.
Scotland.
Yeah, and I've thought about that. Like, even if it was allowed, like, you really, first of all, it would just be exhausting to carry 2 bags around with that.
Yeah.
But like, also just you're not doing a good job for them. Maybe they don't care by that point if they're just out for a party and stuff. But
that's
you want to be on your game. And
that's what I always think in the back of my head is like, if I were to do that, like my performance is going to suffer quite a bit.
But especially like reading a putt or something. Like that's something you really kind of have to.
Yeah, you got to
be a little bit more focused on and stuff. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to like, embarrass the player. You don't want to start yelling at them necessarily, whatever. But, I've had guys who have had trouble controlling their bladder. They've had so much to drink. I had one guy just on the 17th tee box once. Great guy, actually a pretty good player. But he had kind of given up on the golf course on the 16th hole because his ball hit the side of the fairway and then went into a bunker underneath and it was like one of those shots where it's going to take him 4 shots to get out of the bunker, and he had just had enough of all the bunkers and those kind of shots, whatever. So he cussed his way up the 16th hole, and he decided he's going to lay down on the 17th tee box. We're waiting to, for the group in front of us, and he fell asleep. And I just fell asleep because he had had so much to drink. And I'm like, that's don't see that every. I'm like, I already got 2 bags. I'm not carrying them in. So guys,
that's a lot.
He's your problem. No, but so you see that happen every now and then. It's not the norm. Usually you see guys going hard right before they're on, and then the first beverage cart, and then by the back 9 they're like, oh, I need to slow down. So I always feel a little bad for the back 9 cart girl. She certainly doesn't make as much money as the ones on the front 9.
Yeah, people are thinking about how they're going to drive home and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but you face those issues out there, and you wish that everybody was able to handle it, or keep it in moderation or whatever. But they don't, and so we do our best to maybe talk to a golf staff or a beverage cart attendant or maybe the leader in the group and get things under control. And we keep moving forward and try to make the best day of it. But I really enjoyed this topic. I mean, it's a little more cerebral and maybe a little less definitive than some of the other things we're going to talk about. Like if the topic was, do caddies care about or not care about the tip that a player leaves?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a pretty strong, definitive answer to that, and we could go on forever about it with absolutes as far as our opinions. But on this one, I think it's not as easy.
Yeah.
And I would just close by saying I would err on the side of saying, is what I'm choosing to wear, is what I'm choosing to do, is it respectful to the course, to the people that I'm playing with, and is it going to be something that causes offense? And if it is it really that important to me to exercise my freedom in that way?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking too. There's and then there's just mistakes that are made. Did you see what was it, Lowry, who stepped in somebody's line over the weekend?
Oh, I didn't.
And they had
and
then they had a very kind of angry handshake or whatever at the end of the round. And at that level, again, it probably matters. At ours, it doesn't matter as much as people think if that happens, but if it does, you apologize and you move on, and you try not to do it, and you respect that there's that element of the game. But I think the key is to say, let's not go out of our way to cause offense. Let's have a good time, but let's also say, man, this is special. This is set apart. This is that 3, 4, 5 hour period of our day, of our life, where we get to go and do something outside at a beautiful place with people that we care about, hopefully, and it's special. So let's treat it like that. And when we do, it tends to make some pretty beautiful memories. So again, thanks, Nick. Look forward to next week and what we talk about, whether we care about that or this or whatever. And Until then, I just want to remind all our listeners out there that life is a lot like the game of golf. On this side of the ground, there is always another shot to be taken, no matter how badly things are going. So be sure to take yours.